Hello, everyone. Hi, guys. Happy Friday. Happy final day of January. Can you believe it? Has this January felt like it's 87,000 days long? I have my Polish bubble mug, my brand new one that I was influenced by so many of my viewers to get. Having my afternoon cup of tea. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Susan. Hope you all are doing well this afternoon, evening, whatever time it is where you are. Another Susan. Hi, Deborah from Wisconsin. I bet it's chilly there. We're having rain, very rainy day and weekend ahead here in California. Michelle, yay, you remembered. Hi, Jill from Idaho. Is it snowy in Idaho? Teresa, hi. Ginny, hi. Lindy, hi from Michigan. A few Midwesterners on today. Oh, we have a couple of Texans who just joined. Robin from Plano, and I know Melissa is also from Austen, right? Austen, Melissa? Yes, I have that right. Just took dinner out of the oven in time to join. All right. Hope you're having something delicious. Melissa's a wonderful cook. Just started snowing here, 7 p.m. in Maine. Ooh. Laura Hella did not read Persuasion this time, but it's a favorite. All right. Wonderful. It's a favorite of mine too. Yes, cold, right? Cold, snowing, all of that. First time joining your live. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, Houston, Melissa. Sorry. I don't know why I was thinking Austin. Hi, Gloria from Ohio. Gabriella is here. Hi. Linda Jane from New Hampshire. I've been to New Hampshire, though it's been many, 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 many years. Beautiful. I was there in the fall. It's nighttime here. Yes. It is 4 o'clock here in California, but I know many of you are well ahead of me and a few. I know Elizabeth's here on the West Coast. I don't know. Is anyone else on the West Coast? Hi, Michelle. Hi, Virginia. Ooh, Melissa's having broccoli and cheddar quiche. I'm telling you, I'm coming over for dinner. Yeah, Elizabeth asked the same thing. It was for dinner. Michelle's wearing shorts in Florida. It's not quite that warm here in California. Yes, we will get going with the discussion momentarily. It's rainy in West Virginia, but the 50s. That's about what it is here too, Susan. Yes. January is the worst for sicknesses. Yes, so many people I know have been sick. Oh, we have another West Coaster. Kirsten's here from Southern California. I hope you're okay, Kirsten, where you are fire-wise, that you're safe and your family's safe and everybody you know is safe and okay. So it's been terrible. I have friends and family down there. Making those quiches. Hi, Claudia from Georgia. Oh, lovely. Karen says, the sun is setting in Nebraska. Supper done. Ready for Persuasion. Yes, as am I. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. Yes, Sunday is my official 1-year BookTube anniversary. I think it might be showing up that today is my anniversary, but it's actually Sunday. February 2nd was the day my first video went live. I have a special video coming out this Sunday, so turn your notifications on for that if you want to check that out. Doing a little celebrating, have a big announcement to make, so don't miss it. We'll always be doing these lives what time each week? I don't know if I'm going to continue doing the lives weekly. There will be a monthly live. I'm doing the Emma M read along throughout the rest of, well, not the entire year, but at least through August, which is the number of volumes that are out so far. So at the end of the month, I will be doing lives for those, and we'll probably talk about Emma, maybe do some reading sprints also. So I'm definitely going to be having those. going on, and I'm thinking I'm probably just going to keep them to like the last Friday of the month. That seems to be working pretty well for quite a few people are able to make it. So hopefully we'll just kind of continue with that. And then as we go along, I think I'm going to try to do some more lives, but I haven't quite figured out a schedule yet. So stay tuned. Oh, Kirsten, good. Glad to hear that all is well with you in Southern California. Yeah, the first day was actually, I'm pretty sure it was the second. It was a Friday, and I know that we were, my family was actually driving up to the snow the day that my first video went live. So I was like actually not at home that day. So it was kind of interesting, but it was kind of a nice distraction from being like glued to my phone and seeing how my video was doing. So yes, it was. I can't believe it's been a year. Thank you, Susan. Yes. Melissa, you finished Persuasion last and the other book you were reading, Heidi. So I'll be starting something else tonight. How did you like Heidi? Oh, I love Heidi. Okay, so we should get on with the whole reason that we are here. To talk about Persuasion. We're also going to chat a little bit about Jane Austen at Home for those of you who read that one. And yes, so maybe everybody share in the chat, just kind of general thoughts about Persuasion. Tell us, was this your first time reading Persuasion? Did you enjoy it? What did you think of the ending? We'll talk about Wentworth's letter in a little bit, but just kind of give me some general thoughts on your reading of Persuasion. I think we had quite a few people, at least on Discord, who were reading it for the very first time. So I'm not sure how many of you here read it for the very first time, but yeah, definitely share your thoughts. I annotated this copy with so many, just so many quotes stood out to me this reading, and I was just fully immersed in Anne's story. I don't know, it just really touched me even more this time around. Like, I don't know, it's moving up the ranks in terms of what position it's holding of my favorite Austen novels. It is so good and so incisive. And I think what really added to it for me was reading this alongside of it, just getting glimpses into, I know somewhat about Jane Austen's life, but this book gives you so much in-depth detail, and it just really added to my reading of Persuasion. So that was just really lovely. I'm so glad that I did that. Hi, Vero. No problem at all. This is a come when you can kind of discussion. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I've lost count of how many times I've read Persuasion, and this read was just as lovely, just as compelling as always. It always amazes me. Like, this was such a page turner. And I think sometimes people forget that classics can still be engrossing in the same way that modern novels can be, that they can still keep you kind of on the edge of your seat a little bit as to what's going to happen. I know quite a few people in the Discord discussion had difficulty getting into the language of Persuasion. And I hit myself in the face with the book. I'll hold it over here. I can totally understand that. The language that Jane Austen wrote in is not the language we write in or speak with today. And so it does take a little bit to kind of get used to that. And I think the more you read her, the easier it is. And the more classics you read, the more books written during, the 18th and 19th centuries, the easier it is to get into the language sooner. But I think once you get past sort of that first little section, maybe the first 5 or 6 chapters, then I think the story really kind of kicks into gear. And from there, it just feels like I just wanted to keep turning the pages. Let's see. Lindy says it was her first time. She enjoyed it very much, loved it, and loved that letter. I know. It's so good. It's just the best. Amy said it was her first Austen and she liked it. Excellent. Robin, second read for me. It's still my favorite Austen, maybe because I read it as an older woman instead of a young woman. Yeah, and I read I read Persuasion for the first time during the pandemic. So it's been about 5 years. So I was already, more mature person than wasn't in my early 20s or anything. I was a teen when I read Pride and Prejudice. So I definitely think you bring a different viewpoint to it when you come. And I think that's true with any book and any Austen novel, that at different times in your life, different ones of her novels are going to resonate with you in different ways. And so maybe earlier in your life, you kind of like that sort of intensity and that sort of, romance of Pride and Prejudice, where, they're sort of bickering all the time and they're kind of, you've got that kind of thing going on, that like, enemies to lovers kind of romance trope, if we want to put Austen in that trope. So I think, at different points in your lives, different ones of her novels are going to resonate with you differently. Let me go back and look at some of your other comments. Let's see. Susan said it was her first time reading it. Happy with the ending. Thought it was a beautiful story. It really is. Just so lovely. Jacqueline said, I wish I'd read it sooner. I last read it in high school. Will definitely be reading it again. It's moved up in my ranking of Austen works that I've read. Yes, I agree. Yeah, so hard. I know we talked last time during the live right at the end about what Austen was your favorite, but maybe at the end of this wrap up, we'll do another little poll and see where everybody chimes in now. Melissa said, I've read Persuasion several times over the years and I enjoyed it in a whole new way this time listening to the audiobook. I loved seeing Anne blossom again as things unfold. Yes, I think next time I'm going to listen to the audiobook when I reread it. I think I've listened to both Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility on audio, but I don't think I've listened to any of the other Austen novels on audio, but I would like to have listened to them all by some point. Gloria, this was her third read of Persuasion, and it remains my favorite Austen and one of my favorite books in general. It's just that good, isn't it? So good. That edition is what publication? Yes, I think all of her books. This is the Union Square and Company public, version, Union Square. So yes, I think you can get all of her books in this edition. And it's really nice. I like, how sometimes the font and everything and the spacing on the page makes a difference in how you read it. And this just felt, I like it. I like how it feels in my hand. And this edition is just lovely. And these editions are relatively inexpensive. I think this one is $10. So for a nice trade paperback size classic, I thought that was an excellent deal. So I was glad I found this one. I have a few other copies of Persuasion. I should have grabbed them. Well, maybe I will in a little bit. See, Fashion Planning. I haven't read the book, but know the plot very well, and the movies, of course. Love that there seems to be many character-related lessons, and she's an older heroine with a unique story. Yes, I agree. I think that's what a lot of people resonate with Anne, is that she's a more mature character than some of Austen's other heroines. If you think about Emma, if you think about Marianne Dashwood, they're just younger and they have a different sort of sensibility about them than Anne does. She's very much more reserved. And, she's lived a little bit more than they have. So I watched the Jane Austen book club movie 6 or 7 years ago. That's when I read all the Austen novels. Yes, that's a good movie. I enjoyed that one. Yes. I think Barnes & Noble does carry these. I'm trying to remember where I ordered this one from. I can't remember if I got this one. I think I ordered it online, but now I can't remember from where, of course. Yes, the Jane Austen book club. That is a fun movie. So, okay. So let's kind of get into a little bit more of the character characters in Persuasion. Let's chat about, I know there's been lots and lots of discussion on Discord about how much we hate Anne's family. Her father and her sisters, they really are kind of the worst. But I think that, they're sort of held up in opposition to Anne. So that, I mean, and Anne's not a perfect character. She's not perfect by any means. I mean, obviously she's persuaded by Mrs. What's her name? Russell? Is that her name? Why do I always forget her name? Somebody put her name in the, but she's persuaded to give up Wentworth. So, she's can be, swayed maybe to make a decision, though she stands by her decision, which I really do like that about the ending. But tell me characters you hated, characters you loved. Did you have any other favorite characters outside of Anne and Captain Wentworth? Like, what other characters stood out to you? I'd love to chat a little bit about the characters. But I love how does anybody else think Bill Nighy, the actor Bill Nighy, would make a great father, Mr. Elliot or whatever he is? I think he would be perfect. Just, he's so self-absorbed, so, concerned with his own outward appearance and how he appears. And he just wants to, have lovely things and live in a beautiful house, and just, money is no object, except that it is, because they don't have a lot of money. So I think Bill Nighy would be great if they, and maybe, I don't know, who played the father in the most recent version of Persuasion, which I'm not going to watch. I have to pick up. I just got notified from my library because I put both the 90s version and the 2007 version of Persuasion. My library had both on DVD, so I requested them both, and one of them just came in today, so I have to go pick that up. Maybe I'll go do that tomorrow. I think I got which one is this one? Like, ooh, that's hard to see. Oh, this one. Can you see? Whichever version this is. This the 90s version? I think this is the 90s version. So yes. So I think I'll watch that one first, since it's the first one that came in from the library. But I am going to watch, I think, both of those. They were very close in the poll I did on Discord as to which one was people's favorite version. So yes. Elizabeth agrees about Bill Nighy, right? He would be so perfect. Just so perfect. Karen says she loved the Crofts, hates young Mr. Elliot. Oh, yes. Well, yes, of course. He's just terrible. That the letter that he wrote about the Elliots and about Mr. Elliot, that was just so awful. He was just terrible. Oh. Jacqueline's thinking of Archibald. Yeah. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. I really liked Captain Harville too. I had forgotten about him. He's sort of, he comes in, he's such a kind of quiet character. I liked how, he's very sort of literary. He likes to read, and that was just such an interesting little twist in the story, where he comes in and you sort of think he's maybe a love interest for Anne, and then things sort of go topsy-turvy, and he doesn't end up with her. But interesting, just kind of an interesting way that the story unfolds once he enters. Remind me of Elizabeth's aunt and uncle from Pride and Prejudice. Yes, very much so. Yeah, lots of love for Captain Harville. I think he was a great character. It would have been nice to have had a little bit more of him. Jacqueline's going on about Archibald. Can't stand him, and it's only the first volume. Could not stand Anne's father in Persuasion, the way family members are treated. I know. They're so dismissive of Anne. I think that's the thing that really bothers me the most about her family, is just, like they don't even really pay any attention to her. They don't care if she's around. They don't, they're not interested in um, you know, what's going on with her. Like they're so self-absorbed, especially her father and her older sister. I mean, is it the middle? Where does she fall in it? In the I can't remember what the birth order is of the Elliot sisters, but uh why am I blanking on everybody's names? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. But they're just they so just they just expect Anne to just do whatever they want for them. And Mary, thank you. That was the other sister, Mary. I still don't like her, but I feel like I understand Mary more this time around. That's really interesting, Gloria. I'd like to hear you elaborate a little bit more on what you sort of understood about her better this time than the first reading, because I do think that there's something sort of complex going on with Mary. Lindy says, loved Wentworth so much, and Harville too, hated those family members. I think Anne was easily persuaded because when you're young, it seems you haven't experienced enough of life's ups and downs. That's so very true, right? I mean, you don't know. And so you're relying on the experience of people around you who have more life behind them. And I mean, let's talk about Anne's being persuaded to give up Wentworth early in her early 20s or whenever it was. I was going to say something and then it just went out of my head. Apologies. Robin said Anne is the middle child. Yes. So, it's on BritBox. When I have BritBox, I should look. Well, I have the DVD too then. Yes, sounds like Anne was the middle child. Oh, Linda says, as the middle child, I think Anne was trying to please everyone else above her own desires. That's very true, right? And I think sometimes as middle children, they feel a little bit like pulled, between, she sort of felt like she needed to be everywhere and she wasn't able to. So either she was with Mary and helping her, or she was with her father and Elizabeth and helping them. And so, yeah, that's sort of that tug of war of the middle child. Oh, yes. My thought was that Anne was persuaded she wanted to be loved and accepted by her family. So she did what they wanted. And, they weren't wholly wrong in, saying that Captain Wentworth, he didn't have much money at that time, so his, who knew what his prospects were going to be, and that was something to take into consideration. I mean, women were reliant on the men in their lives. So whether that was their father or their husband, they had to, be able to be taken care of because they could not do that for themselves because they weren't allowed to, really. There's an Amazon Prime, one of the versions on Amazon Prime. Okay. Melissa says, I think from a purely practical perspective, it was probably easy for Anne to be talked out of the engagement because at that point, Wentworth wasn't stable financially. Exactly. Yes. So, I mean, she's young and they're telling her, well, he doesn't have any money. How are you guys going to live? So, okay, that makes sense, and it's hard. I'm sure, your heart is breaking because you love this person. You want to be with them, but, maybe practically it's not the best choice at that moment in time. Someone on Discord mentioned the ages of the girls when Mrs. Elliot died. The oldest sister was clearly favored by their father, and Anne had Lady Russell. Yes. Yeah. The person who mentioned on Discord was talking about how their ages may have affected the type of person that they became because of what sort of what formative part of their life they were in when their mother died. And the mother obviously seemed like she would have been a really stabilizing influence. She would have been maybe more like Anne. But, when they lost her, they sort of changed them a little bit and changed their dynamics as well. Elizabeth says, I think it's hard for the reader to understand Anne's attachment to her family since we see them grown up and they're so awful then, but she grew up with them and did love them. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have to think we have to consider, again, what were they like when their mother was alive? Maybe the dynamic was different and it wasn't always like that. And, the mother was able to kind of keep her husband in check and run the household and take care of her girls. And, so her loss really changed their family dynamic a lot. Gloria says Mary seemed like the odd one out trying to get attention however she could. Very youngest child. Sort of always like me, 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 me. You do this for me. And, why can't, it's like when they're in Lyme, Regis, and what's her name, who falls and hits her head. And Wentworth wants Anne to stay because Anne's, clearly good at taking care of others. And Mary's like, but why can't I stay? Like sort of typical younger child and typical Mary. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Mrs. Russell too. Because it's so weird on this reading. She feels very much in the background to me now, whereas I felt like after my first reading, I felt like she was more prominent in the novel. I'm not sure why I had that feeling, but she really kind of stays in the background. There isn't a lot of actual interaction or dialogue happening between her and Anne as it's happening. And I hadn't really remembered that. So that was really interesting to me this time around, that you don't really see that in action. You just hear about it afterwards. There, sort of what has gone on between them. Yeah, Susan says financial stability was a concern of Jane Austen as well. Yes, you learn all about that in this book, and how, the women were reliant on the men to, have a place, have a home, have money to live on. And, we talked in the live last time about the entails on property and how many, many times property was not passed down through female members of the family, only through male heirs. So that was how, you see that in other Austen novels like Sense and Sensibility, where the Dashwoods have to leave their home because another male heir has been, given their home, because it's, that's how it's been set up. So suddenly they're homeless and they have to rely on other family members to take them in, give them a cottage and a place to stay. But how horrible. And, just always that kind of feeling of unsettledness that can happen if you aren't married or, don't have that financial security. Yes, Melissa, I totally agree with this. Anne is a caretaker by nature. She's a giver in a family of takers, and that's a hard dynamic to break out of. Absolutely. Absolutely. And also in those days, the class system and status associated with it was a very real thing. For Anne to be taken with Wentworth when he didn't have any money would have caused people to pity Anne. That is true. I mean, I don't know that, Anne, I don't think Anne had a lot of like conscious thought about like, status wasn't important to her per se, but I think she did understand that she needed to be sort of retain her place in society, like at the class level that she was living at with her family. Like she needed to at least remain at that level, rather than if she married Captain Wentworth and they, that would maybe take them down in social status. Robin says, I agree with you, Jen, about how I felt about Lady Russell after the first read compared to this one. Yeah, it was so strange. I don't know why after my first read, she just felt so much more prominent. And in this time around, I didn't feel that way. I just felt like she was like in the Wizard of Oz, where he's like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I sort of felt she was like the woman behind the curtain, kind of not manipulating things in a bad way. I don't mean that. I just think we don't see a lot of her in action per se. Yeah, she's very in the background for such an influential person, but maybe it's because Anne doesn't let herself be as influenced by her anymore. Yes, I think you can definitely see that in this book, right? The arc of Anne's story, whereas in others of Austen's novels, like in Emma's, you can kind of see it's like a coming of age story. And Anne's isn't a coming of age. She is clearly of age, but she is maturing into her age. I feel like throughout the course of this novel, we sort of see her, as she comes back into contact with Captain Wentworth, sort of, you know, own her feelings about him. And yeah, I think just you see her sort of starting to like pull away from that influence that her family and Lady Russell had on her in her earlier, her earlier life. So, and I think we're just seeing her mature as a woman throughout the course of the novel. I think that's why she's an appealing character. Yeah, Susan says Mrs. Russell was influential in the prequel to the story. We have the feeling that Mrs. Russell was a pseudo mother figure. Yeah, definitely. And I think I think she's sort of, or Austen sort of refers to Russell, as that sort of mother figure type, that she sort of stepped in and helped Anne, because clearly the rest of her family wasn't going to after the loss of their mother. And Lady Russell may have also had greater aspirations for Anne and making a great marriage. Sure. And then I wonder what happened to that. Like we don't ever get a sense of what happens in those intervening 7 years after she turns down Captain Wentworth. Like she's still very young at that point. They could have made a match for her with someone else. Like what happened? I wonder. Where did Lady Russell go? what was going on? It's like time froze and then we pick it up 7 years later. Yes, she does. I do think, as much as Anne's family is sort of a foible to her, I think Lady Russell shows us why Anne is lovable, like that she is well thought of by someone else outside of her family. I think she sort of plays that role. Maybe other people were worried about Anne not knowing what she was doing if she did marry Wentworth early on. That's true, certainly. I mean, I think there was lots of assumptions that young women didn't know their own minds, and older women, I'm sure. And so definitely, I'm sure there was some of that going on. Oh, she does. That's right. She does get another proposal and turns him down. Well, she's always in love with Wentworth, so of course she turns everybody else down. Yeah, I wonder if he was approved by Lady Russell. Yeah, I don't think you learn all that much detail about the other proposal. Oh, that's right. She did want Anne to marry Mary's husband when he asked for her first. Yes. Maybe Lady Russell knew what was in Anne's heart, and perhaps that is why a match was never made. Yeah, potentially. I mean, though I think, that's interesting because we are coming at this from a sort of modern perspective, right? Where love is our sort of guiding motivation towards, finding a partner and getting married. Whereas I think, in Georgian times, that women had to be more practical than that. They had to find somebody who was going to take care of them and who was going to provide them with a home. And you learn how important that was to Jane Austen in this book, because her home is not very steady. She's not secure. Steventon Rectory, where they lived when her father was the rector, as soon as he retires, they have to leave there. They sort of they bounce around, like go to Bath, and they go, then when her father dies, they have to, rethink things and move somewhere else. And then they end up finally at the Chawton Cottage. But, there wasn't a lot of stability in terms of Jane Austen's own life. And so I think you see that Lucy Worsley does a really good job of making those connections and connecting the dots between Jane Austen's own personal life and the stories that she wrote about, and how that you can see the influence of her own life in those stories, even if it's just kind of, an underlying theme or feeling of tension. But she does really play a lot on this idea that home in Jane Austen's novels is really important. And you see in a lot of the books that there's the woman, mostly the female characters, don't have a secure home life. Emma is kind of the one exception to that. But you see that a lot in all her other books, that home, the women don't know where they're going to end up in terms of what their home is going to be. Oh yeah, you appreciate the time capsule this novel is the fact that social class mentalities, etc., are all portrayed and conserved in this novel. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why, we read classics and we read books that are written from a long time. We have to know what happened in the past to change things and see how much they've changed, from that time to now. So without that record of what life was like, how would we know? So, yes, very much the truth. Yes, let's talk about that a little bit because I found that interesting too. I was thinking a lot like, why wasn't the priority to get Elizabeth married? The youngest daughter gets married first in the Elliot family, which it's kind of unusual. You don't see that as often. And I mean, there wasn't necessarily like that, the first daughter has to be married first kind of a thing, but that was, I think, sort of how things went. And some of it's just, they were coming of marriageable age first. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting that Elizabeth had seemingly no marriage prospect. I mean, who would want to marry that woman? Melissa says, I love how it's super clear that the Musgrove family all still wish Charles had married Anne instead of the uber annoying Mary. Yes. Isn't that great? They just love Anne. It's so nice that they're so kind to her. I mean, it's so good to see that other people appreciate Anne when her own family does not. Oh, it's because she became her father's companion. I mean, she did sort of become sort of the head of the female head of the household, right? She sort of took her mother's place in the Elliot household after she passed away. So there was certainly some of that. But I mean, if she had married, they could all have, if she married somebody who had some money, then the whole family could have, sponged off of him. So, I wonder how much Anne is not affected by class. Anyone notice how protective she was of her dad and her sister's companion? I think she was trying to navigate within established class roles. Absolutely. I mean, I think we can't ignore the class, that it was a classist society. And Anne's certainly cognizant of that. And I think she's well aware that, they need to maintain a certain social status. That was important. And, one, to allow them to continue to associate with the other people that they're friends with and are within their own social class. If you married below your status or above your, below or above your class, then suddenly you couldn't associate with the people who you'd always known. So that was a huge consideration, especially if you think about how kind of insular their lives were. I mean, there weren't any phones. There was, no technology. There was no easy way to get in contact with people. So the people who were closest to you in physical location, those were the important people in your life, because it just wasn't that easy to travel. And, I mean, obviously they wrote letters, but that's not the same as like the people you see every day. So I think your social class was really important to everybody. They pushed for Elizabeth to marry Mr. Elliot, and she was humiliated by her blowing her off. I wonder if that made her less appealing to other suitors, along with her personality, etc. That's true. That is true. That's right. I forgot about that they were pushing hard, and then he was like, no. Which, I mean, I don't think he's a catch either. So I don't think either of them, but maybe they would have been good for each other. I don't know. So yeah, so maybe that did make her less appealing, that they knew that he didn't want her. Yeah, Karen said the same thing. Yeah. They tried to match her with Mr. Elliot, and his rejection, I think, humiliated them, plus pride of wanting someone greater than him, probably. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's chat just a little bit. What time is it? 4:40. Okay. Let's chat a little bit about just the ending of Persuasion. Let's talk about Captain Wentworth's letter and kind of how that all plays out, because that is, I think, a really interesting way for Austen to kind of wrap things up with the book and get Anne and Captain Wentworth back together. I mean, he basically overhears Anne talking, and then he sort of hastily pens this letter while she's in the room, while other people are in the room, and he writes this beautiful love letter to her. I mean, it really is like the swoon worthiest of love letters in any book that I can think of. Can anyone else think of a letter like this in another book that's equal or, as worthy as Captain Wentworth's? I don't know. Austen did a really good job. Just I just well up every time I get to the letter. Like every time I read it over and over again, it just gets me every time. That you pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Tell me not that I am too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever. And then later he says, I have loved none but you. Like, oh, Wentworth, love you. Right? Elizabeth says the letter has to be the tops. Yes. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Who would not want a letter? I mean, I can't believe Anne didn't faint. Like, it was that good when she read it. Like, I can't believe she managed. I mean, she was barely holding it together. Like, you can really tell. I love the way Austen describes that scene of her, like, just trying to get away from people so she can process what she has just read. Like, I can't imagine how incredibly difficult that was for her. Yes, she needed all of her self-control for sure. Wouldn't we all? I mean, you get this letter, you read it when you're not in the privacy of your own home, and then you have to just keep yourself together. I mean, in a modern novel, that girl would have rushed out of there and chased after him down the street. She had, more decorum than that. But yes, such a good, just that whole sequence of events at the end of the novel is just so good. Yeah, Lindy says, so swoon worthy. I saw something on YouTube where an actor read it and it was amazing. The words coupled with the actor's voice, perfection. Yeah, yes. I know. That's why I want to watch the adaptations. I like the strong captain showing us his vulnerable side, acknowledging his mistakes. Yes. Yes. And I really do appreciate that. And it is really nice to see him be that vulnerable and that, I mean, he's basically like, he's really hoping she's not going to reject him a second time, because he's not really sure he can take that. And can you blame him? I mean, the poor guy's been pining after her all this time. And now I was just going to try to find, I've lost my place. Yeah. And, he's laid it all out there, right? Putting it all on the line for her. And, I think that's what makes it such a swoon worthy letter. And Jacqueline says, can't you just see the eye contact when he leaves the letter for her? Yes. Sneaks out before Mrs. Musgrove even knows he was there. It's like, there you go. This is for you. Gotta go. Yeah. And, not wanting to be there when she read it for sure. Right. Because what if she's like, no, I'm over you. This is ancient history. But, he had no idea how she was going to react. And then I really just love how you see the two of them kind of talking about their past and what happened. And, he says to her, if I had written to you, 5 years ago, would you have said yes? And she was like, yes. Like, so, I mean, I think he had his feelings were hurt, and I'm sure there was some pride involved in him not wanting to go back to Anne, I mean, how often does that ever happen that someone has rejected you and then, 2 years later you go back and please can I ask you to marry me again? I mean, I think that um that just doesn't, it's really hard for people to put themselves out there in the first place, let alone do it a second time and risk a second rejection. That's the wonderful aspect of Anne. Her practical, logical brain balances her intensity of feeling. Yes. Yes. That's, I think, what makes her such a lovely character. She does feel very balanced between like logic and heart. I think that's what gives her that level of maturity that we don't see in some of Austen's other heroines. Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of another letter in another book that comes close to this one. Oh, yes. Melissa said the edition of Persuasion that has the folded handwritten letters in it is wonderful, mostly because of the letter. It's the best to unfold it and read it, right? I know. I would love to have a copy of that edition because there's a number of classics that have been done that way, like with all the handwritten letters. And that would be just perfection. Yeah. That's why it's my favorite. Austen. Yes, it is really a beautiful love story between the two of them. And it really does feel like, I mean, when you think about some of Austen's other romances, Darcy and Elizabeth, and, Emma and Mr. Knightley, there's a little bit of, like, there's not maybe completely equal footing between the two people in the relationship, but I feel like with Anne and Captain Wentworth there really kind of is. Like the two of them feel like they have both grown and matured as people, and now coming together in their life, their marriage is going to be really a really solid foundation. And I think also, as I am an older person as well, like I appreciate that, like seeing two characters who really feel like they are just going to be good together. I think that's what I really love about Persuasion. Elizabeth says that's a good point about Wentworth's pride being hurt. I love that he is able to let go of his pride to confess his love for Anne that second time, whereas so many other characters cling to theirs. That's so true. I mean, I think that's so unusual. I think especially for men to really kind of break down and set their pride aside and be vulnerable in that way. I mean, that took a lot for him to do that, I think. It's I think what makes him such an endearing character. And us root for him because he does open himself up to the chance that she's going to say no a second time, and how heartbreaking that would have been for him. But it all works out in the end. We can always count on a happy ending at the end of an Austen novel. Well, is there anything else in Persuasion that anybody wants to share? Any particular quotes, anything that stood out to you? If so, definitely add those into the comments. One of the most interesting parts of this romance is how little Anne and Wentworth really talk to each other. Unlike Lizzie, Darcy, Emma, Knightley, their connecting again is almost all nonverbal. That's very true. And I think we have to sort of like assume probably they talked a lot during their initial courtship when he first asked her to marry him, and they fell in love during that time. So maybe we're supposed to read between the lines. They don't need to talk because they're just like this. Yes, they're not a pair with lots of witty banter. Yeah, there's much more gravitas to their relationship than some of Austen's other romantic relationships. Yes, Jacqueline, I'm so glad that you've enjoyed this. And I did do a poll in the Discord group, and not everybody answered, but a few people answered, saying I asked if people were interested in making Jane-uary like an annual thing, because I would like to do that, but obviously only if other people are interested in it. So if you are interested in doing Jane-uary again next year, leave that in the comments. Yes, yay. Someone had asked if I was going to do another Austen book this year. And the thing is, I'm really cognizant of the fact that Jane Austen July happens every year and has been going on for many, many years. And I don't in any way want to get kind of too close to that. And I feel like Jane-uary is such a good time to read classics, and it's when I really feel the most like I want to read a classic. So I think I'm just going to stick with doing it in January for now. But certainly, when Jane Austen July is going on, because I usually do participate in that. So I may do something just kind of like an offshoot of that, like whatever they're doing. But if other people want to have discussions, because they don't really do I don't think they do a live discussion. Do they do a live discussion at the end of the month? Someone who's done a number of the Jane Austen Julys, let me know in the comments. I can't remember now. But they wrap it up in their own videos. All of the hosts do, but I'm not sure if they do like an actual live wrap up. So maybe we could do something like that if people wanted to read something in July. Sounds like yes, people are interested in Jane-uary. Oh, okay. Maggie asked, for those of you who started with Persuasion, any suggestions on which Austen novel to pick up next? I think the next, really any of them, but I would say Pride and Prejudice. That would be my vote. If Persuasion is your first Austen, read Pride and Prejudice next. Even though Laura says not Pride and Prejudice for next January, that's fine. I will probably do what I did this time, which is do a poll and ask what people want to read. And obviously we won't read Persuasion because we just did Persuasion this year. So we'll see what the group wants to read. But yes, I think most people are saying Pride and Prejudice would be the great one to read next. It was the first one I read. I know it's a lot of people's first Austens. So I think it's a good next place to go. Plus, it's such a familiar story. I think a lot of people are, at least a little bit aware of kind of the general gist of the story. Yes, definitely Jane-uary will be happening again next year. I am so thrilled that so many of you wanted to participate and come along on this fun read along. I'm trying to decide. Having used Discord, I'm not 100% sure I want to stick with Discord. There have been just issues and things, but I don't know. Do you guys know, is there a better place to host discussions online? I don't know what other people do when they want to have book discussions. Because I feel like Voxer wouldn't be good for a large group. And I just don't know what other platforms there are. So I may have to do a little bit of research into that and see if there's something better than Discord to use. We'll definitely do the lives again. It'll probably be set up very much the same way as this January. We will pick one main Austen to read, and then maybe I will pick a secondary, either a nonfiction or maybe, we can read Jane Austen retelling of whatever book we're reading next January. So maybe we'll do something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see what gets picked, and then we'll decide from there. So kind of keeping with the same format that this January went. Let's see. Yeah, I would actually love to reread Mansfield Park. It's the only Austen I haven't reread now that I've reread Persuasion. So, if I had to vote for next January's pick, I would probably pick Mansfield Park, but I definitely want to read what people want. And I don't know. I love all of Austen's novels, but Mansfield Park is definitely down at the bottom for me. But I'm just curious if a rereading would change that. So, Jacqueline's going to read Sense and Sensibility in April. That sounds wonderful. I love. Again, Sense and Sensibility has been my favorite Austen, but I don't know. I don't know now. Because it was like Sense and Sensibility with Pride and Prejudice is a close second. And then like Emma and Persuasion neck and neck right after that. Then Northanger Abbey. Then Mansfield Park. I don't know. And like so many of you have said in different places and different comments, it's whatever Austen I'm currently reading is my favorite one. And I think I'm just going to have to go with that. So right now, Persuasion is my favorite Austen, subject to change the next time I read another Austen novel. So yes, I would love to hear from you in the comments before we end our discussion of Persuasion. What is your favorite Austen novel? If you've read more than one. If you've only read Persuasion, then you have to say Persuasion, right? Because it's the only one you read. Oh, Jacqueline says, if anyone is looking for a good Austen-esque read, look up Siri James. I brought my notebook this time because in the last 2 lives, people have made lots of like things I wanted. It's hard for me when I'm trying to like manage the comments and talk and everything, but I was like, oh, I'm going to bring a notebook so I can write down things people say that I want to look up later. Because I don't want to rewatch the whole live of myself talking. I guess I could just look through the comments. I guess that would probably be an easy way to do it. Someone once recommended Mansfield Park if Persuasion was my favorite. I disliked Pride and Prejudice. Oh, Laura, that's really interesting. What didn't you like about Pride and Prejudice? I'm always curious, like what didn't you like? And have you only read it once, or have you read Pride and Prejudice more than once? Probably not if you didn't like it, right? Melissa says Pride and Prejudice is her favorite. It's just the most fun and most rereadable to me. It is good. Plus, then, can we talk about Colin Firth and Jessica Eel? Jennifer Eel in the 1995 miniseries, because swoon. Have I talked about this already about how I love Colin Firth? I love Colin Firth. I love him. I did like, if you've ever seen that episode of Friends where they make up their like list of celebrities that they could like, be with, even though they have a partner in life, like the Colin Firth is the only person online, I think. Jacqueline says Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice are neck and neck first place for me. Yep, I know. It's so hard to pick. Elizabeth says Pride and Prejudice was the first adult classic I love, so it's always going to be foundational. Same. I read Pride and Prejudice my senior year in high school. Yeah, and it definitely, yes, it's hard to not have that be foundational. Even the 1940s one with Laurence Olivier and the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. Oh, yes. If you haven't watched the Lizzie Bennet web series, oh my gosh, it's so good. I had no idea, and I watched it 2 years ago during Jane Austen July, and I mean, I was obsessed for like a week. It was the only thing I wanted to do was watch the Lizzie Bennet Diaries web series. You can find it on YouTube. Just search Lizzie Bennet Diaries. It is so good. And Bridget Jones, right? Because then you get Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. Their fight scene is like one of my favorite parts of that movie. I will just watch that part over and over again. Lost in Austen. Actually, I read, because Lost in Austen's based on a book, and I have read the book, but I haven't. Is that the one with Carrie Russell? Is she the one in the Lost in Austen, or is that Austen Land? I always get them confused. Maybe did I watch Lost in Austen? I don't think I did, but I have read the book. I've only read Pride and Prejudice once, didn't hate, but saw the movie first and didn't care for any of the characters. I think it hurt the book for me. Did you see the Keira Knightley movie? Is that the movie you saw? It's fine, but it doesn't hold a candle to the Jennifer Eel Colin Firth version. Yes, me too, Elizabeth. Pride and Prejudice at 17. Yes. Robin says Persuasion's still her favorite of all. Yeah, well, I'm going to go with that for right now because it's the one I just read. There are great sequels, retellings of Pride and Prejudice too. The Other Bennet Sister and What Kitty Did Next are my favorite of those. Yes, I have The Other Bennet Sister on my shelf to read. I also have a, what's it called? An Assembly Such as This, which is like a Fitzwilliam Darcy retelling. So I've had that on my shelf, you guys, for like a decade or more. I really need to read it this year. Popular opinion, I hate the Keira Knightley one. I'm not a huge fan. It's fine. It's fine, is about all I can say for it. I know people love it, and that's totally okay. You should love what you love. Absolutely. But sorry, nobody holds a candle to Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy. He is Mr. Darcy. Have you guys seen the video of Renee Zellweger as Bridget Jones interviewing Colin Firth not as he's Mark Darcy in the Bridget Jones? It's hilarious. Google that. It's like Bridget Jones interview of Colin Firth. So funny. He gets like so mad and I think he storms off. It's really funny. Really, really funny. Yes, the Lost, Jacqueline's talking about the Lost in Austen trilogy. Yes, very good. Oh, you read the Assembly Such as This. Oh, good. It was good. Yay. I'm so glad. That makes me really want to read it. Yes, it's so funny. You have to watch it. The 2005 it is like reading an abridged version. Well, I mean, how can you, it's so hard to put an entire classic novel into a 2-hour movie. So the miniseries just will always have the depth and the breadth that a 2-hour movie doesn't have, because you just can't do that in 2 hours, right? Oh, good. Love for Colin Firth. Yes, love him. Oh, and that chapter in Bridget Jones's Edge of Reason is hysterical too. Yeah, that's my least favorite of the Bridget Jones books, but yes, that scene is funny. I know. He's so good in Bridget Jones. I like you just the way you are. I mean, again, that's like the Wentworth thing. Like, who doesn't want someone to say that to them? Like, I like you just the way you are. Not, 10 pounds thinner or taller or whatever, better dressed, more money. No, I'd like you just as you are. Even if you're, a hot mess, I like you just as you are. Oh, yes. If you haven't watched Bridget Jones, such a good, the movie is great. I mean, the book is great too. I actually just reread the book a couple of years ago in January of 2023, which was really fun because I hadn't read it since my 20s. And it just took me back. Even though I have my biggest issue with the movies is that Bridget Jones in the book is not overweight at all. She's not. If you calculate, I mean, her weight in the book is done in kilograms or whatever it is that they do in the UK for weight, stones or whatever. And if you calculate it and you look at her height and what her weight is, I mean, she's just like an average woman. I think at the most she weighs like 137 pounds. She's like 5'5". She's not fat. She just thinks she's fat because that's what women are taught to believe. So I really hate that the movie kind of plays into that. Whereas in the book, you understand that that's just how she sees herself, because then she loses a bunch of weight and everybody's like, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? Are you okay? What happened? And so it's just that whole thing, it's like that society is always telling women they need to lose weight. And so she's just caught up in that, but she's not really fat. I kind of refuse to watch this newest Bridget movie for reasons I won't. Oh, yeah. No, I know the reason you're not watching it. That's the same reason I'm not watching it. Because the person we just talked about, that spoiler, yeah, that's the reason I'm not watching it. I loved the last Bridget Jones one. That and the first movie, just skip all the rest. Plus, Patrick Dempsey, he's another one. Can't Buy Me Love was like my favorite movie in high school. So him and Colin Firth in a movie together, my head about exploded. Anyone read The Forgotten Sister by Jennifer Painter? It's an accompaniment to Pride and Prejudice about Mary Bennet. No. I think there are a couple of retellings that focus. Well, is the other Bennet sister, is that one focused on Mary too? I'm going to write that one down as well, Jacqueline. Yeah. I mean, there are so many Austen retellings out there. There is an Austen retelling. Well, I don't know that it's really a retelling. It's called The Persuasion of Miss Jane Austen. I believe that's the title. It's by the same author of our December pick for the Cozy Reader Book Club. And I think like Jane Austen is the main character, but I think the storyline is similar to Persuasion. I think that's my understanding from what I read about it. But has anyone read that one? Because I was going to try and read it this January and then I just didn't have time. But I'm really curious about that one because it sounds interesting. Excuse me. Yes, McDreamy. He is McDreamy. Yeah, the other Bennett sister is about Mary. Yes, that's what I thought. So so it sounds like that one and the Forgotten Sister are about Mary. Okay. I didn't know there was another one. Oh, Jacqueline, email it to me. Okay. All right. So I'm so glad everybody read this, that you enjoyed it, that you're excited for another Jane-uary. This was so much fun. I've never hosted a read along before. So if you have any tips for next time, I'm all ears because I'll hopefully get better at this as I go along. Thank you for coming. All right. So I think I'm going to do a quick little break. We'll do like a little reading sprint, not a super long one. So if you want to read or if you just need to take a little break, why don't we do that? We'll do like maybe, thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Vero. So yeah, so if you're sticking around for Emma M. Lyon, or even if you're not, if you want to read for a few minutes, I am going, oh shoot, I didn't get the, I need to get the ASMR. Actually, I found the Jane Austen house. Is it Jane Austen? I forget. One of you told me about this YouTube channel, and I found they have some ASMR videos on this channel, and they're like Jane Austen related. And I thought that I was like, I wish I had found them before we started doing the lives this month, because then I could have done these like Jane Austen ASMRs during our reading sprints. So that would have been so much fun. Yes, Susan. Yes, you can read both. Volumes 1 and 2 are super slim. You can read both of them in February for sure. Absolutely. Do it. Yes, the Jane Austen Literacy Channel. I should have known it was you, Jacqueline. So yes, they have some ASMR. So I'm going to put one of those on while we take a little reading sprint break or whatever you need to do. If you need to, get something to drink or have a snack or grab a mug of tea. I think mine's gone cold now. And then let us come back. Let's see. We'll come back at like 30 after, I think. And then we will start the discussion of Emma Lyon. So let me get this set up. Okay. Let me go back here. Okay. Yep. All right. Let me get this going. All right, here we go. I will see you guys back here at 5:30 to 5:30, at 30 after, whatever time of day that is. 5:30 for me. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Let me turn off the banner. Okay, there we go. All right, welcome back. I am finishing up one final book for January. So I read a few pages of Dear Hugo by Molly Clavering during that short little sprint. But this is a fantastic little epistolary novel, and it's very shiny. If you haven't read it, if you like D.E. Stevenson, I highly recommend this. She and Molly Clavering were friends, and their writing is very similar. So this is lovely. But that's not what we're here to discuss. Now we are here to discuss Emma M. Lyon, Volume 1. I just love this series so much, and it was so fun to go back to the first volume and start Emma's journey all over again. It's just interesting. I'm going to have to really restrain myself. I actually also during that sprint, I made some notes of the characters that appear in volume 1 because there are more characters that we meet as time goes on. And so I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So I was like, I'm going to write down all the characters who appear in volume 1 so that I know who I can and cannot talk about. So if you are here to chat about Emma, I would love to know, is volume 1, is this your first time reading Emma M. Lyon, or have you read all the volumes? Are you rereading them, or have you read them in the past and you're just joining in for the discussions? However it is you're reading this, let me know in the comments. But I also want to know, does anyone else want to move to St. Crispian's? Because I kind of do. I think it sounds like such an interesting neighborhood to live in. Jacqueline said, I had to write the characters down, lots more introduced going forward. Not a lot, but she does start, and I forget which volume it begins in, but she does. Oh, see, it even begins in volume 2, has a character list at the beginning. So going forward from here on out, there will be a character list at the beginning of every book, which is super helpful because, yes, there are quite a few more characters that join the story as we go along. All right. So looks like we have quite a few. Oh, hi, Rebecca. I'm so glad you're here. My Cozy Reader Book Club co-host. So this is your first time reading through it. Jacqueline loved volume 1. Elizabeth read it for the first time. Megan was reading it for the first time. Michelle's reading for the first time. All right, lots of first timers. Laura says she love this book, purchased the second, and then went on to order the rest. Yes, that's what I like to hear. Karen's first time. Another first timer. So many. Yes, and they're so addictive. Like I was looking at because I read the entire series last year. So I started this one. I finished on January 2nd of last year. And then I think I've read the second. I ordered the second one as soon as I finished the first one. And then I finished this one on the 10th of January last year. So I was just on a roll. And I read the first, I forget however many, 5 or 6, just boom, 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 one right after the other. Laura said I had trouble with the characters and reread it. Yeah. I mean, I definitely needed to reread volume 1 because I just read volume 8 in December. And so I wanted to make sure that I was clear on everything that just what happened in volume 1. So we could kind of talk about that. So, but yes, it's, oh, Jacqueline, you ordered them all based on your recommendation, except volume 8. Well, I'm so glad that you enjoyed volume 1. I do think the series it's one of those that just gets better and better. It just kind of builds on itself as you go. So if you liked volume 1, I think you are in for a treat. Oh, you're waiting for volume 2. Yes, I definitely think the Emma M. Lyon series is having its heyday right now. I think also because volume 8 just came out in December. So I bet there are people who started hearing about the series and now are going back and reading the earlier ones. But yes, so let's talk about volume one. We get introduced to Emma. Obviously, we are hearing everything from Emma's perspective because it is her unselected journals. So I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk a little bit about do you like Emma? I mean, I think she's a fantastic character. If you've watched my YouTube channel, you know I love a plucky heroine, and I feel like Emma is exactly in my wheelhouse, and that's part of why I love these books so much. Is she's just her own person, and she really, she's not waiting on anyone to do things for her. She's going to make stuff happen. She has had some really, really hard things happen in her life. I mean, in this first book, we learn her parents have both died really quickly, one right after the other. And then the man that she was in love with has died. So she's had a lot of tragedy. This is a girl this could be a very depressing story. And yet it's not. It's so, I mean, there's depth to it and there's heart in it. But Emma is just so light and frothy, but not in a way that's like, it's not just all surface level. I feel like we do get to kind of go underneath. I think Beth Brower does a really good job of that. Yeah. The physical copies are so nice and they look so pretty sitting on your shelf because they're so colorful. And so you get this whole like kind of rainbow effect as they go along. I'm always excited to see like what the next color of the next volume is going to be. Yes, Emma is witty and the setting is so strong. And I did share, if you're in the Discord group, I did share somebody had posted a map of St. Crispian's and that they just drew. It's not like Beth Brower or the publisher's like official map, and maybe they'll include that in a future book. But do you all think wit still has value in our society? That's a really great question. That's a good question. Everybody chime in the comments. Yes, Michelle, I agree. I wish I had her gumption as well. I mean, here's a girl, I mean, her cousin's basically stolen all her, I mean, he's used all her money, and so she's almost penniless. So yeah, she's where there's a will, there's a way. Emma has a lot of will. Yes, Jill, she's very, very spunky. Oh, love her love of books. Want to send her a shelf full. I feel so bad for her. Yes. So that is one of the other things I love about these books is that, so at the end of this one, obviously we can see her library is very, very sad, right? She's only got the Shakespeare and the Bible. That's all she has on her shelf. But in each subsequent volume, you get a list of all the books she has on her shelves. I won't spoil anything, but can you tell by the smile on my face what happens? Yeah, the read and write. I think I don't want to call these books magical realism because that's not the right description of this book. But there's something slightly maybe magical about St. Crispian's. I mean, items walk off out of people's homes and then they turn up in other people's homes. Like that's not a normal thing to happen. And they've got the Roman and that whole like this sort of ghost character that appears to people in the neighborhood. Yes, and I love the read and write. It is almost a character unto itself, and you get lots more of the read and write as we go along. Yes, the map. So I got distracted from talking about the map. I did post a picture of the map in the Discord group. So if you're in Discord and you missed that, just scroll up in the discussion and there's a picture of the map of St. Crispian's if you kind of want a visualization of where things are. Yes, love the letter from Emma at the end and her books at the end. Yes. I know. I love how it's like, dear reader, as appalling as it is to read another's journal, I would like to thank all of those who made it possible for you to begin reading mine. Yes. So there's lots of just like kind of tongue-in-cheek things going on that Beth Brower has in the books. And I feel like you're immediately pulled into this world where you are immediately centered and you understand there's like certain things that happen here, certain events, certain people, certain places that are important, and you become part of this world that like has its own language. And I really love that. I feel like it just draws you right in, and you are immersed in St. Crispian's world, and all of the characters therein and all the places. And I just think Beth Brower has done such a good job. I mean, this is not a long book, and it's epistolary, so there's just not a lot of words on the page. And yet I feel like she has done, she does such a great job of just bringing you right into this world from the get-go. And I think I just love that about this first volume in particular. Broken, very relatable younger days. Yes. Right? Jesus. Yes. Oh, yes. I don't know how she puts up with her cousin and that butler, and she takes the attic. Nope, no. Oh, you know what I saw? And I wish there was a way I could have like shared it on Discord, but I saw on Instagram somebody has like made a miniature of Emma's attic room. Like, those little mini dioramas that you can get to like put on your bookshelf. Someone has made one of those out of Emma's attic, and it is so amazing. So if I ever see it again, I will try to like figure out how to like point you to the account that created it, but it's amazing. I do like the decor of her house, though. It's just, yes, right? I mean, lots of descriptions of, you can really picture what Lapis Lazuli house looks like, what Emma's room looks like. I could do without the mice. So yeah, that's a bummer. But other than that, I would love to live there. Yes, the Roman definitely adds to that sort of whimsical nature. The Roman, I mean, you only kind of get a little glimpse of it here in volume 1, but personal items that go missing from people's homes, like your umbrella goes missing, and then, your friend 7 blocks away, it ends up in their umbrella stand. And so I just love that sort of whimsical nature to it. That's a great word for it, Rebecca. Why am I having my comments don't want to scroll? Apologies. Yeah, should we talk about Cousin Archibald a little bit? I mean, we don't actually, he's sort of hiding out in this volume, isn't he? For good reason, because I mean, he did take Emma's money and spend it all. So he's hiding out from her, obviously. But yeah, he's just the worst, isn't he? He's just, and Perian, his, the butler, he's not much better. Oh, St. Crispin reminds me of an elite college town that also has a heritage value. Yes, right. Absolutely. Oh yeah, his cousin Archibald's robes, that he spent all of the money on these yeah, that's we're not done with that storyline yet. Oh, that's right. The tenant. See, this is why I had to write down all the characters' names, because yes, the tenant, we're kind of left hanging at the end, not knowing about the tenant next door and what's going on with that. So yes, more to come on the tenant in volume 2. Yes, there's so much packed into so few pages. I laughed a lot at her wit, but also shed some tears as she processed through her losses. Beth's writing is so deep. I know, she's really, really great at kind of encapsulating all of that, sort of that whole range of emotions in this tiny little volume. So yes, the mice are disgusting, but very broke artist, avant-garde vibe. Yes, there's a little bit of that going on. Oh, you wonder about Archibald. You wonder if he was having second thoughts about Emma going to see Matilda for the money. Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, Archibald and Emma's relationship, it's a fun one. It's not really good, but it does make for interesting storytelling. That is for sure. Yeah, I don't like Archibald at all. He's appalling. Yes, he is for sure. I mean, He's not a good guy. So we've talked a little bit about Emma. We've talked about Archibald. We touched on Perry and Elizabeth a little bit. And then we have Agnes, who's the maid in the house, who, I mean, it is sort of like boys against girls in the house. I don't know if that was intentional on Beth Brower's part or not, but I love Agnes. I think she's a great secondary character, and we get to see lots more of her as the books go along. But it was fun to go back and remember her in the early days and how she very early on just, I think she sort of helps Emma feel it is Emma's home. It's going to belong to her when she comes into her majority. But I think Agnes makes her feel welcome, whereas Archibald and Perrion certainly do not. I mean, Perrion, can we talk about Perrion sleeping in Emma's old rooms? You're the help. You're not family. You don't really belong or deserve to be there. I think it's to Emma's credit that she just is like, I don't even want to get into a whole thing with either of them about, what rooms I'm going to have. And, probably the farther away from the both of them, the better. So, her being in the attic is probably all for the best. Oh, Jacqueline, I like that. Let's picture the mice as those in Cinderella, magic realism. Oh, that's right. If they're like little mice who come and clean and they wear little clothes, and that would be great. Oh yeah, Agnes is spunky. I was laughing at her nervousness when the tenant answered the door to her. Yes, that is a great moment where she's like, oh, I know. And then Archibald stole the book that Emma had found. Yes. He's like, this is mine. Because the one thing he does own, right, are the books in the library. So that's the one thing in the house that is his, that his wife, who passed away, left to him. But that was just awful. I mean, the girl doesn't have anything, but there was the incident where what does she throw at him again? Because she leaves a scar. I forget what she threw. Why am I blanking? Someone put in the comments, what was it that Emma threw at Archibald's head and gave him a scar? That's why he's so mad at her. Well, now I can't remember. Is the attic, is that at the 5th level, or I thought the attic was the 4th level. Now I'm confused. Because Archibald's rooms are on what the English call the 1st floor, but it's the 2nd floor in the US. And then I thought Emma's old rooms were on the 3rd floor. I thought the attic was above that on the 4th floor. Am I forgetting a floor? I can't remember. I don't know. That's a good question, Jacqueline. Oh, yes. I had forgotten that. And when I went back and was rereading volume 1, I was like, oh, I forgot that she burned her journal. She's Archibald and Matilda, they're like just peas in a pod, those two. Ugh, that's just awful. Oh, yes. Let's talk about Hawks, young Hawks. Which they refer, like he's capital Y, young Hawks. Let's talk about Hawks. What does everybody think of him? He's such an interesting, enigmatic character. I mean, tell me all your thoughts about Hawks. Yes, Rebecca, I agree. We do need a map, like a floor plan drawing of the house. That would be fantastic. Someone should do that. Oh, yes. And how she capitalizes important words like the scar that Archibald has. Yes, the pastor. Wonderful example of what a pastor should be. Hawks is an interesting character. Just you guys wait. He's so Hawks. Yes, we definitely follow along with Hawks. We definitely follow along with the tenant. we have more people coming into Emma's life as we go along. And yeah, her life gets fuller and fuller as we go through the volumes. So, and that's really fun to see. As a book loving journal keeper, I cried. Yeah, about Matilda burning her. I mean, can you just imagine just how horrible? I mean, hasn't this girl suffered enough? Like, the loss of her parents is not enough. You have to take her personal journals away from her. Just can't handle it. Ugh. Hawks staring at the ceiling in the church. Is there a painting up there? It was like a clue to Emma. Yes. Hawks has a way of saying exactly what somebody needs to hear right when they need to hear it, whether that's to them directly or from the pulpit. Hawks he's one of those people who is like wise beyond his years. Okay, bottom of page 2, 4th floor is empty. Thank you. All right. I'm looking at the wrong book. I can't find it in that book. That's not volume 1. Okay, yes, the 3rd floor consists of 2 guest bedrooms. Oh, the entire 4th floor is empty and is to remain untouched. The 3rd floor consists of 2 guest bedrooms and my former rooms. Below that, Cousin Archibald occupies the 2nd floor, including the forbidden to me library. 1st floor hosts the drawing room, the dining room, and an unused salon. Kitchens and storerooms are on the ground floor. The room for Agnes behind the kitchen. Okay. All right. So there are 5 stories in the. That is good to know. I need to make a note of that. All right. So we've got at least an idea of what Lapis Lazuli House looks like. Yes. So again, this is another one of those elements that Beth Brower has added where, Hawks seems to just sort of appear out of nowhere. And, sort of adds that little bit of magic to this neighborhood and to Emma's world. Which is, I think, what she needs. She's gone through some really rough times. I think the girl needs a little magic in her life. Oh, the wrong choice of schools. Yeah. Oops. Laura, yes. When Emma chooses the wrong school, when she could have gone to the one that her aunt wanted her to go to, which actually she would have like gotten an education there instead, but she wouldn't have met Mary. And I do love her friend Mary. Mary is another great character, and we get to learn more about Mary as time goes on, and we get to meet Jack through Mary. We just meet him briefly in volume 1, but he will come back again in future books. The pastor really gives me young college graduate vibes, very chill and contemplative. Yes. I keep picturing, there's an actor that I keep picturing as young Hawks. I can't think of his name. He played Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. If you guys have watched that show, if you know who I'm talking about, that's like a young version of him. That's what I picture Hawks to be like, to look like. That's what I see in my head when I see Hawks. I see that guy. So yes. Yeah, Megan agrees that what happened with Emma's school, so frustrating. But I think all of this, I mean, I was just going to say something, but then I'm like, oh, is that a little bit of a spoiler? It might be, it is. But I feel like, we see with Emma that sort of orphan story that we see in a lot of books, especially classic novels. Like if you think of like Oliver Twist and Jane-Eyre and books like that, where the main central character is an orphan. And they've had, they've had bad things happen to them. They've had good things happen to them. They've had bad people in their life. They've had good people. And I feel like we see Emma on that kind of similar trajectory where she's down and then she's up and then she's down and then she's up. So, but as we enter the story with her now, yes, she's got some problems. She doesn't have any money. That is a problem. she's had a lot of loss, but she's a take charge girl, and so we're watching her kind of take charge of her life right now. Yes, Hawks does almost seem to have telepathic ability. It's kind of amazing and very intelligent. Yes, that was again like that, wise beyond his years, and he could quote books and poetry like nobody's business. I mean, just lots of good stuff coming with Hawks. Just say you picture Hawks in a hoodie with big rectangular glasses and a spiky, boyish, uncombed blonde hair. See, I picture him as a brunette. I don't know why, but like foppish kind of floppy hair, like that kind of thing going on. Oh, is it bad that I like her aunt? They seem to respect each other, right? Yeah, so here's another person, right? Kind of a foil to Emma. I mean, she has this aunt that she has to kind of maintain appearances with. But there's a little bit of, whereas with Archibald, he's just so annoying. With Aunt Eugenia, I feel like at least you can you understand her motivations. And even if she's not always, like the things she wants Emma to do isn't what Emma wants, they're not bad for Emma. They're not nefarious. She's not out to hurt Emma or get her back or do any of that. She's just like, she's one of those like society women that she's going to do what's right. She's going to send her daughter out into society and get her married to the best possible, rich man out there. And she's going to have Emma help her do that. But she's not against, I mean, like she tells Emma, go to the seamstress and get whatever you want. So Emma gets an entire new wardrobe of clothes from her aunt. So that's not a bad thing, so she's not, I think Aunt Eugenia is a really rich, complex character. And so that's kind of nice. Yes. Thank you, Alexandra. Andrew Scott. That's who I picture as young Hawks. So if you don't know who that is, you can Google him and look up his photo. That's what I picture young Hawks, but like a young Andrew Scott. He's getting a little maybe too old to play Hawks now, but like the Andrew Scott of 15, 20 years ago. With the school circle, it reminds me of impoverished females in men's society. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's right. She threw the empty teapot at him. That's what, during the incident. In capital letter, another capital letter thing, right? The incident, which resulted in the scar. Laura says, I like the aunt also being a senior. The older women in stories always interest me. Absolutely. I agree. She's a good one. There are some other, just so you know, there are some other older female characters coming into Emma's world. So stay tuned for those because there's some good ones. Oh, Jacqueline says she just thought the person she pictures Archibald. Have you seen the old Laurence Olivier Greer Garson Pride and Prejudice, the Reverend Cousin Owen? I have not seen that one. I'm gonna have to look that up though. I'm trying to think who I picture as Archibald. I sort of picture Archibald as like Jim Carrey as the Lemony Snicket character, sort of like something like that. Like that's kind of like I picture him with like just, I don't know, sort of tall and skinny and kind of, I don't know. I just like hooked nose and that's just kind of how I picture him. Let's see. Aunt Eugenia is smart and probably knows Emma behind the scenes and other things too. She seems kind, but in a way that doesn't seem obvious. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think she loves Emma in her way. She's not a demonstrative woman. And, I don't even think she's demonstrative with her own daughter. I think she's just very no nonsense, matter of fact, like, this is what we got to do, girls. And Emma, you're going to do it. And you're going to abide by society's rules and you're going to follow all of my rules. And this is how it's going to be, like, just here it is. But I think with Aunt Eugenia, she's like, her cards are all on the table. Like, what you're getting with her. Whereas Archibald seems like he's holding everything close to the vest. And so, or close to his robes. So you don't know what you're going to get with him. And I think that that makes him more unlikable than Aunt Eugenia. Yes, Archibald, gangly hook nose, big ears, absolutely. Like whoever like you picture in your mind, like that's exactly how I picture him. Yes, the wit and the banter amongst the characters, and we get more of that as we get deeper into the stories in the subsequent volumes. But yes, Beth Brower's great at writing that like witty, bantery dialogue. Like I picture the pacing, sort of if you watched Moonlighting, the TV show Moonlighting, it had really fast, like back and forth banter talk. And I just kind of picture Emma to be a little bit like that. Just very like quick, like Gilmore Girls, right? Like how they very are quick and witty and just, they know exactly what to say at the right moment. I am not that person. I wonder if everyone in Emma's circle is witty. Is there a character that is not witty? Well, I mean, I think some of them are witty in different ways. But I mean, she really does sort of surround herself with people who are, whether they're book smart or they're street smart or, that's just sort of the world that Beth Brower has created. So, I mean, Archibald, I mean, he's not a friend, but I don't think he's witty. When Emma went to the bank and claimed her rightful money, I cheered for her. Yes, what little of it was left. Yes, the banker. That was absolutely. That was nice. It was good that at least it wasn't like he was like trying to get Archibald to like, you need to not spend so much money. And Archibald's like, yeah. So yes, nice to have at least somebody looking out for Emma a little bit, because it doesn't really feel like anybody else is. Like she doesn't have parents and she doesn't have a parental figure. I mean, she has Aunt Eugenia, but it's not really the same. There's not like this, it's not like an empathetic looking after her. Whereas I feel like the banker had a little bit of that, like some empathy for Emma and what was happening. Yeah. Yes. She definitely has set up this volume for Archibald to be a character that infuriates you. I don't know that changes. Yes, Laura, yes. Beth Brower has written other stories. I know she has a book called The Queue, I believe. That's maybe one of her other most popular books. And then I think she has another series. I forget what it's called. It might be a young adult series. But I am interested in reading The Queue. I've heard from a couple of people that book is good. But I don't know anything about the other series. Oh, is the ghost that Agnes has seen supposed to be Maxwell? No, I don't think so. Because that's the Roman. So he's supposed to be this like ancient Roman, soldier or somebody who was killed, while the Romans were invading England. And so yeah, he's supposed to be this like medieval character. And you learn a little bit more about him and the story of that as we go along. So The Queen's Gambit. That's another one of her books. Not The Queen's Gambit if you've seen the TV show. That's not the same book. Different book. Same title. Yes, The Roman Soldier. Absolutely. So, okay. So we talked about, I was just kind of want to go through and make sure I kind of touched. We didn't talk about Emma's cousin Arabella, who again is, I mean, we're starting to build up Emma's sort of social friend circle. So we meet Mary, we meet Arabella, Hawks. I don't know that they're friends, but he's certainly somebody positive in Emma's life. And then, oh yes, I was gonna say we've touched on Maxwell a little bit, and then his brother Evelyn. who we just hear about mentioned briefly in this one. But Laura said it's suspicious that Maxwell's body is to be moved. Yeah, what does everybody think about what Emma learns from Evelyn about Maxwell, and kind of that dynamic there? Because there's definitely a dynamic. And, we don't learn a lot about Emma's relationship with Maxwell in this book. Beth is very good about just kind of dropping little tidbits of information about the different characters and relationships and things, and kind of building on that as we go. So that made this such an interesting reread for me, because just seeing, what little bits she dangles in this volume, and then now I'm like just greatly anticipating what we're gonna learn about in volume 2, because I've forgotten which pieces of information we learned when. So yeah, we really just kind of get that glimpse. Jacqueline says she wondered if they'd find the coffin empty. Is he really dead? Well, that's an interesting question. Anybody else? Did anyone else have thoughts like that, or other thoughts about kind of that information about Maxwell and them wanting to move? So I'm trying to find where that letter is. Just a moment. Oh, wait, there it is. Yeah, because I was trying to see, I couldn't remember if they mentioned like where he's currently buried, and then they're moving him to the like family plot. Yeah, Megan wondered if there was more to the story with Maxwell as well. But I couldn't remember if they said where he was originally buried in this one, but it doesn't look like it says. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Oh, well, it does say that he was killed in the desert of Afghanistan. So I guess we do, or at least I sort of made the assumption that he's buried in Afghanistan. And so they want to bring his body home to England, obviously. But I think that's pretty, I think lots of families feel that way. They want to have their loved ones' remains buried where they want them buried, not just buried out in the middle of a country they'll never visit. So yes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all that plays out with Maxwell. Oh, and then Jacqueline says, I'm wondering if Emma falls for the tenant and then we learn Maxwell is still alive. Dun, dun, dun. I have nothing to say about that. But if anyone else wants to chime in on thoughts about what Jacqueline has said in the comments, please feel free to share thoughts about that. Yeah, that would, what a plot twist, right? I mean, I don't know if I can read only one volume a month. Well, I mean, you can certainly read ahead. I don't want to prevent you from reading ahead. You'll just have to like remember where each volume ends so that we don't share spoilers in the comments. That's where the problem I'm having right now is I'm like, because I know stuff. So I'm good. I think for volume 2, as much as I just want to dive right into it, I think I'm going to wait until closer to our discussion next month so that it's fresh in my mind, all of the events that happened just in volume 2, so that I don't want to get carried away and accidentally spoil anything for anybody. Yeah, definitely read ahead and then you can go back. I mean, they're definitely worth a reread because, or even just a read skim, like if you just kind of flipped through it before the discussion to like refresh your memory of what happens in each of the volumes. There is going to be a volume 9. As far as I know, I think there is going to be about a lot of volumes. Like Beth Brower has a whole thing planned out. There's going to be lots and lots. I don't know when volume 9 is coming out. it'd be great if it came out before September, because then we could read it. Or what if it came out in like August? Then we could just all read it right after reading volume 8. That'd be fantastic. But it just depends how fast she writes it. I don't know. I mean, it did take a little while, I think, for volume 8 to come out. So we may not see it this year. I don't know, but let's keep our fingers crossed. So Laura's going to save each volume as a treat. Yes, that's kind of what I'm doing for my rereads. So I'm going to save it as a treat, read it right before we have our discussions. Then it'll be nice and fresh in my mind. And yeah, sometimes the anticipation is nice too. Oh yeah, there's definitely going to be more than 9. Lots more. And I will find where Beth Brower has talked about the arc of Emma's story and how long it's going to be, because it's quite long. So we can expect many more volumes. So that is my understanding. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I think Beth Brower plans on covering 4 years or so of Emma's life, which is like 20 or 30 volumes. Yes. So lots more to come. But it'd be so great if we got volume 9 this year, and then we could finish out and read that one too. But we will see. Yes. Beth Brower does have a Substack, which is fantastic if you want to follow along. And so she's always posting Emma updates. She also posts Emma updates on Instagram, so you can follow her there. But yes, I highly recommend her Substack. I follow along there as well. And it's fun because she just gives all kinds of, insider stuff. And I think I'm going to actually sign up. She does have a paid, you can just follow her for free. It doesn't cost anything, but she does have a paid version. And then you get like extra things. And sometimes she'll do like, I think, little short stories and stuff based in St. Crispian's. And so I'm going to sign up for that. I keep meaning to do it and I just keep forgetting. So yes, a lot more shelf space. Luckily, they're fairly slim volumes, so they don't take up a ton of space. But yes, and they are getting. I mean, volume 8 is probably like more than. I'm looking at it. I think it's more than these two put together is volume 8. So it's quite a bit longer. I think it's over 300 pages. So they are getting longer as we go along. So yeah, we probably will need to have a little bit of shelf space for them at least. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to share? Any favorite parts of the book so far? Any predictions for what's coming in volume 2? I mean, I can't predict because I know what's coming, but I'd love to hear. I know we've talked a few things about is there something going to be happening between the tenant and Emma? Is Maxwell alive? What's going to happen? Any small details that you're interested in seeing kind of how they play out? There's so much minutia in these stories. It's just amazing. It's kind of like, I mean, it's that way with any long running series, right? There's like so many details for the author, I feel like, to keep their head wrapped around. Like, I'm not even sure I'm like, have to have some sort of giant, whiteboard or sticky notes or something with like all the details of all the different things. I don't know how I would keep track of all of that. Jacqueline's looking forward to Arabella's season. Yes. Well, this is like the season before the season, and then we're going to have the season. So lots of seasons happening with Arabella and Emma. Yes, as her companion. Mm-hmm. Yes, Laura said the same thing. Interested in Arabella's coming out. Yes. So we're going to get some good fun stuff. And I like Arabella. It's nice because it just feels like she's just sort of like, whatever, this is going to happen. My mom's in charge. I'm just going to let her do it. But she's very down to earth and she's very relatable. And, she and Emma are very simpatico. And so, they get along really well. And that's a really fun relationship. Yes. And the aunt finding the husband for her. Yes. And I'm trying, I don't know. Does Arabella talk at all in this one? I'm trying to remember. Does she say at all anything about her expectations? About who she wants to marry in this one? I can't remember. Does anyone know, or can anyone remember? Oh, Jen, does the typing Mary is doing become a bigger story? Well, perhaps. Perhaps there's something there. Perhaps. Stay tuned. Yes, there's so many like subplots and little threads and all kinds of things going on. It's just like I was saying, I'm amazed Beth Brower can like keep it all together because it's a lot when you've got a series that, but sounds like she's got it kind of planned out. You know, if she's going to do 4 years of Emma's life, then that's a lot to happen. So, oh, Rebecca said yes. Arabella does talk about it. I think okay. So yeah, she says a little bit, and this isn't really any kind of huge spoiler, but Arabella's just sort of like, you know, I'm going to marry somebody rich, and I don't really care much more than that. That's, you know, so she's sort of leaving it to her, letting her mom do her thing because Arabella doesn't really care. She just wants money so she can do what she wants. Fair play to her. Yes, luckily February is tomorrow, so everyone can start volume 2. I know. So many people in the Discord have been saying how hard they've been trying to not to start, and some people did. Oh, you read the first 3 books and then skipped to the very last one at the time and saw who she ended up with, and that was enough for you. Well, but like nothing's set in stone yet. Even knowing what I know about Emma, like nothing's final. Nothing's final. All the relationships, all the balls are still being juggled, even in volume 8. So there's still just so much going on. Yeah, it's exciting. It's very, very fun. But yes, I am so excited that so many of you are enjoying Emma because she's just a delight. So yes, as of tomorrow, I mean, you know, you can read the, like I was saying, don't feel like if you are just so immersed in the stories and you want to keep reading ahead, read ahead. Absolutely. I mean, you may want to refresh yourself before the discussions as to what happens in each volume, but officially tomorrow's the starting reading volume 2. And then we will discuss, I think I was mentioning this at the end of when we were discussing Persuasion. So if you weren't here for that part of the discussion, I think I'm going to keep the discussions here, the lives, for the last Friday of the month. I think that's what I had said somewhere else, maybe at some point, but I think I'm just going to stick with this. Seems to be a fairly good time for most people. Hopefully you can all make it. And certainly if you can't, all the lives are recorded and saved on my YouTube channel, so you can always watch the replay if you missed the live. And always feel free to message me or email me if you missed the live discussion, or, you know, talk in the Discord group, however you'd like to do it. I'm always willing to chat books in any way, shape, or form. So if you missed the discussion, we can always chit chat if you guys want. Laura's going to send the first one to her sister and get her addicted. Yes. Right. I know. I'm like, this is one of those books you just want everybody to read it. And I think I started seeing people talking, like my friends on Instagram were talking about this definitely over a year ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And I was like, oh, that's intriguing. But, you know, there's so many books out there. And then I can't remember what prompted me finally to pick up the first volume last January. So glad that I did. It's just an amazing series. All right. Thanks, Rebecca. I'm so glad that you made it. I just love these books. So yes. So February 28th. So the last day of February is the last Friday of February. So that will be our live discussion of volume 2. So hopefully you can all join for that. It'll probably be at the same time. And it will just be that because Jane-uary is over. I don't have any other read-alongs going on in February. So we will just discuss Emma. And I will, going forward, just keep this end of the month Friday live discussion to be specifically for the Emma M volume. So that's all. I mean, we can chat about other bookish stuff, but we won't chat about any other specific book to discuss at the same time. It will just be Emma. And Maybe we'll do, I don't know if we'll do reading sprints. Does everybody want to do reading sprints? Because we could like talk about it for a little bit, do a reading sprint, talk a little bit more, or if we just want to have the discussion, I'm open to either way. So whatever the group prefers. Yes, there's going to be lots to dish about as the series goes on. So thank you, Jacqueline. But yes, thank you guys so much for coming, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I look forward to discussing volume 2 of Emma and Lion. Thank you to everyone who also came for the Jane Austen Persuasion discussion. And I look forward to Jane-uary next year. But until then, I will see you on YouTube, see you on Instagram, see you all the places, and we'll be back here at the end of February to discuss volume 2 of Emma. So thanks, you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.